Ramaphosa has addressed the 38th SADC Summit in Namibia. The SADC's Heads of State and Government Summit was preceded by the Troika meeting. Top on the agenda, the political turmoil in countries including the DRC, Madagascar and Lesotho. President Ramaphosa also had the occasion to introduce Lesotho's recently appointed mediator facilitator, Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke. SADC Troika organ is responsible for ensuring peace and stability in the region. The DRC, a case in point, it is the case in point where many lives have been lost. SADC's outgoing chair, in his meeting with President Kabila, was reassured that the coming elections will be peaceful.
Today, we are proud that SADC has matured into a fully fledged organization whose focus is to advance the prosperity of the region and its people. It is important to remind ourselves about the treaty establishing SADC, particularly its objectives to forge regional integration, better the lives of our people, promote democracy and economic prosperity, and also to ensure peace and security. Despite the clear intent in the treaty, our region is still confronted with many challenges, including a lack of adequate infrastructure, underdevelopment, poverty, the effects of climate change, and the spread of communicable diseases. In responding to these challenges, we can say with confidence that our regional organization is indeed on a positive trajectory. In the recent past, we have developed key plans that guide our efforts to realize our mandate and to create a region that we both deserve and we want. These include the revised Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan of 2015 to 2020, the Regional Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap, the Regional Infrastructure Development Master Plan, and the Strategic Indicative Plan of the organ. Together, these plans are critical for deepening regional integration amongst SADC member states and ensuring the sustainable development of our region.
Well, that's President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier addressing the SADC meeting currently taking place in Namibia, of course, in his capacity as the outgoing chair. Let's now take this discussion further. I'm now joined by our SABC foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good afternoon, Palesa.
Now, a number of issues on the agenda, of course. We look at the status of member states' contributions, an overview of the socio-economic situation, but most importantly, the state of peace and security within the region itself. The organ of politics and defense has a huge task, but the question really is there political willingness to carry this through?
Well, there is a political will. When you look at what has transpired in the region for the last past, perhaps I can say 20 years, we've had leaders who are very firm in terms of ensuring that there's peace and stability in the region, that is the SADC region, and generally on the continent. You would recall South Africa in particular has played a prominent role in ensuring that there's peace and stability. You look at our deployment of troops in different areas where there are conflicts. You look at DRC, you look at Sudan, and when there are problems in the region, a case in point Lesotho, we are there to assist. And therefore, it is for that reason the current chair of the AU, Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, gave an indication that as the AU, they are quite satisfied that the region, all the time when there are issues, they are quick to act. Let's take a listen at what the Rwandan president, President Paul Kagame, who is currently the chair of AU, had to say about the issue of peace and security and how, as the region, we have ensured that there's peace and stability in countries where there are instability. Let's take a listen.
There are matters we can't just wish away, but have to face them directly and find the right remedies for them. SADC has accomplished this task in the past in handling political and security issues in Lesotho and Madagascar, and recently in the Comoros. You will be called upon to do the same again, where similar action is required, as indeed was the case in Zimbabwe in the recent past. We can all be pleased that SADC and the AU accompanied the political process in Zimbabwe, and now matters are in the right direction in final stages of being happily resolved before the courts of law. SADC has a similar role to play to benefit situation in the DRC.
All right, Sophie, basically President Kagame is saying that SADC indeed has accomplished the task of ensuring peace and stability. But one thorny issue, if one may say, the Democratic Republic of Congo. We've heard President Joseph Kabila recently announcing that he will not be contesting the elections in December. He made his address as well at the meeting. What was his focus?
Well, it was more of a farewell speech. You could see that he was emotional. You'd recall that he came into power immediately after the death of his father, and he was very, very young. You'd recall most of the journalists, everyone was surprised to see such a young leader on the continent. And South Africa, again, playing a prominent role with the Sun City talks to try and bring together all the Congolese, what was called the Sun City dialogues, to try and find a solution. And you know that the country is quite rich. If we can get DRC right, I think the continent will flourish in terms of mineral resources, in terms of water, you know, the Inga project. And he was very, very emotional, and he appreciated the fact that many countries did assist DRC, even though there are still challenges in the DRC. Let's take a listen at his closing remarks, or perhaps what one can say, a farewell speech, because there's no way you will be able to address SADC again.
What we have rejected over these last 2 years is any kind of imposition or any kind of blackmail in as far as our electoral process is concerned. And we will continue to be steadfast and very much alert on this particular issue as we prepare for the upcoming elections at the end of this year. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's very clear that beyond peace, beyond security, stability and democracy, and elections, economic progress and development have been high on our agenda.
All right, well, there you have it. That's the DRC President, Joseph Kabila. I almost didn't recognize him, Sophie. As you said, when he took over this position, he was very young. But look at him now. He emphasized on peace and security and spoke a little about the elections as well. Can we say this is sort of his assurance that the elections will go smoothly?
That's what he did when President Cyril Ramaphosa visited the DRC as the chair of SADC. But of course, as the region must remain vigilant, not only the region, the continent, and particularly the United Nations. You'd recall that there was a time 2 months ago where the Secretary General of the United Nations wanted to visit DRC, but he didn't agree to meet the SG of the world body. And now the question is, much as he has indicated that he will not seek re-election and he didn't register, but apparently he has appointed someone who is likely to contest in the ticket of his alliance and his party. But the question is he going to have influence behind the scenes? And you also have a situation where some of the candidates who wanted to contest elections were not allowed to go back in the country. Therefore, the region must remain vigilant, the continent must remain vigilant, and of course the United Nations must remain vigilant. And also the issue of ensuring that there's peace at this election, you know, during the polls in December. Therefore, strengthening of the peace building capacity to ensure that there's peace during elections.
All right, we're running out of time, but let's also focus on Zimbabwe a little bit. But it's another area of concern, if one can say. Peaceful elections, violence erupting a few days after the elections, and now this court challenge. What did President Emmerson Mnangagwa have to say?
Well, of course, when I listened to him, it was like I'm listening to the past two events that I attended when he was delivering his speech. I mean, starting from the Heroes Day and also the Armed Forces Day in the South African term, but the Defense Force Day, you know, talking about how elections were free and fair and how he created that kind of environment. But of course, you know very well that as we speak now, the Constitutional Court in Zimbabwe is seized with this issue. The MDC Alliance has filed a petition to contest the outcome of the results, citing some irregularities. And coincidentally today, the two South African legal minds, I'm talking about Advocate Dalimpofu and Advocate Tembeka Toby, are currently in Harare. I'm sure they'll be flying back to South Africa. They were engaging with the MDC legal teams. They even posted their pictures. But something to note there. Previously, it was very difficult to enter Zimbabwe when you are there in business. As a journalist or going to work, you need a permission and all that long processes with the previous administration of President Mugabe. But here they are. And when they told me yesterday, I couldn't believe. I was asking them, are you sure you'll be
able to go through? But yeah, they are there. And therefore, all eyes will be on the Constitutional Court in Zimbabwe next week. Media, we have made a request to be allowed, cameras to be allowed in court. We might be granted permission, one foreign camera and perhaps the local broadcaster, our national broadcaster, our state broadcaster. And then, of course, for some journalists to be able to give reports inside court. So we don't know, we are waiting. And of course, we will update the continent, we'll update the world in terms of deliberations as a biggest broadcaster on the continent, the SABC. All right, I suppose we can take a listen at what President Emmerson Mnangagwa had to say.
Let's listen to Mnangagwa.
Peace and security is essential for the development and prosperity of our region. We must therefore intensify our efforts to end the conflicts in our sub-region and beyond. In this regard, I wish to commend the outgoing chair of SADC, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, and outgoing chair of SADC Organ of Politics, Defense and Security, His Excellency President João Lourenço of Angola, for their sterling efforts aimed at maintaining peace and security in our region during their term of office. I would also like to assure the incoming chair of our summit, His Excellency President Genkop, and the incoming chair of the SADC organ, His Excellency President Edgar Lungu of Zambia, of our unwavering support. In conclusion, I wish to assure you of Zimbabwe's full commitment and support for the objectives of our organization SADC. In particular, the region's agenda for regional integration, industrialization, sustainable economic development, peace, security, democracy, and good governance. Let us continue to work together to make SADC the pride of our continent, Africa.
All right, well, there you have it. That's Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa. And Sophie, I suppose a huge task now is being placed on Namibia's shoulders to take the fort forward.
Yes, Dr. Hegegop, now the chair of SADC, he has to deal with these hotspots, Lesotho included. Ntate Khamseneke is attending the SADC meeting.
But from where you're
Yesterday,
sitting, is he willing to bring the two parties together, the
very
two sides?
difficult. Lesotho is very difficult. And last night I saw a letter written by an opposition leader who is outside the country, who is still in exile, complaining about the slow progress in terms of ensuring that there are reforms. It looks like they are not agreeing. And you saw even the ruling party or the alliance right now, there were tensions. One minister fired. Therefore, Lesotho is very difficult. I don't know who will get Lesotho right.
A difficult one indeed, Sophie. We have to leave it at that, time constraints, but thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks, Palisa.
All right, well, there you have it. Our SABC foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, looking at the SADC meeting that's currently taking place in Namibia. Let's